All righty. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching our video on what we're calling a data-driven, how do you build a story using data? And I've got one of the most amazing people I know, Dr. Belli, joining us today. And I just have so much respect for him, his background and everything he's done. So thank you for joining us with CEDO today. And, thanks for being part of the team.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you.
So I'm excited about trying to share this story. So we've been kicking back and forth for several weeks, having a little data geek fest, I guess, if you will, on what's going on in the industry and what we're looking at on data today, and some of the issues that we had. And we thought, let's share our experience with the outside world and some of our friends on LinkedIn and see if we can get some dialogues going. So, if everybody likes this one, we might want to try to do this a little more often and invite some guests on here. So with that being said, let's kind of just move on to what we were talking about. All right, Upendra?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes. So data, I think in insurance industry, everybody understands that data is important and data is an important asset. And, we all talk about it a lot. But I think we probably need to set our expectations right, because one of the things that somewhere we think that we need to have a perfect data set, and that's a myth. It doesn't happen. Even great data, forget being perfect, even great data doesn't happen. So the way I talk to the, insurance industry execs, and even in my prior role, is don't worry about perfect data, just worry about usable data, and that is credible enough from the point of view of building insights. And also, data, if you see, is good in pockets. And when you see different pockets around insurance enterprise, that doesn't come from a single source. It comes from multiple sources, and when it joins hands together, that's when it forms a good data source and pockets of good data source in different corners. So when you do that, I just talked about data being usable and credible enough. One of the challenges that we all face is not being consistent. So, that is the biggest challenge. So, so first of all, there is no such thing as single version of truth. I think anybody who has worked in insurance knows that, right?
Yeah, that's the truth, right? We all learn the lesson the hard way, right?
Yeah. Exactly. The truth is that there is no single version of truth. But I think one of the things is from the data analytics challenge point of view, how do you process the inconsistency? So that is a big challenge because you see data coming from different sources. You see the hope that you are getting into a cohort or a pocket where you can get a good data that can come together to build a story for the business purposes, to take some action, but there are inconsistencies. And that's where expertise is needed to have that process together. Would you agree, Louis?
Well, I totally agree. Years ago, we bought a data brick from a large company, and I called it Swiss cheese. Then I thought, well, now once we've got the Swiss cheese, how do we fill all the holes, right? So what we learned, exactly to your point, it takes a lot of data sources to try to pull together that picture of the risk. And if we think about it today, I love your point about there's no perfect data or data is not consistent. So today we get information from the agent, right? We look at the application, and this is what the insured told the agent, or maybe the agent even coached them a little bit or something, and filled out the app and then tried to turn it in. But then there's another version of the insured, of what the insured wants the customers to know. Maybe I do asbestos removal, but I certainly didn't tell the agent that, right? But then there's another thing. What is that person licensed with the government to do, if it's in one of those type of businesses where they're licensed, right? And then what is that person saying to social media that they're doing, or is social media saying, all of a sudden I think I got a painter, and then social media says, boy, this person put the worst roof on my house, right? So if you look at that, that kind of feeds to what we're saying. We don't have a perfect snapshot of who our insured is, no matter how we think, how great our app is, right? It takes a lot of data sources to kind of fill in, which, this is what we've been kind of talking about over iced tea during our calls here and there in the last month or so. But this was one of the models, I think, I drew this up, Pinder, probably, I don't know, back in 2008 or 9 or 10, somewhere around there. Because my fascination with data was, look, I understand I've got a particular risk. It's a particular class, right? In the commercial business, in the commercial space, right? It's what does that person do? I know I have a policy that I have a legal obligation to fulfill. So there's terms in there that I have to pay in the event of a claim. So I've got elements and things that start, coming out and popping out to us. So then we start saying, well, how does that element, where can I get that element? What does this picture start looking like? And how do I tie all these to a data source to go all the way back to this class that's my risk, right? So this is the start of what you were talking about, Pindra, that where I need different data sources. I can't just have the magic data source, right, to give me this type of answer.
Absolutely. And Louis,
and so then you kind of look, yeah.
What happens, Louis, is that from the analytics standpoint, everyone loves the idea of connecting the dots because when you have good data or have a hope, solid hope and plan to get a good data together, people usually underestimate the data engineering task that is involved, So it is a matter of experience and expertise to have the data processed correctly in order to get the story out, the insights out of that data.
Oh, it really is. And we need to touch base back on that one, because I agree. I think that's where the heavy lifting, that's where 80% of the heavy lifting come from, right? So you see here, like you're saying, we're connecting the dots. These are my stories and where maybe I can go get the data. So the other thing, though, I want to kind of go back to what you were saying before, we got to set our expectations. You can't set analytics as being, an external data so high that the business, might miss the expectations of what data is. If we can kind of lower the expectations and say, hey, let data kind of drive where we're going. And by that, I mean, what kind of external data really is out there? And then based on that and doing that reflection that we just saw where you're connecting those dots or those arrows, what data elements is going to give us the greatest return, right? I don't need to know all data for all things in every 50 state for all ISO lines, but maybe if I took it a little more granular, maybe I want to do a market approach in a certain area, maybe that area is better in data than Wyoming or so on and so forth, right? So how can that knowledge, how can focusing in on that, letting data drive our business, give us greater market share, which I think that's the big question. And then you could start seeing how that bar of expectation can get a little bit higher, right? So that's why I always like to say, hey, start lower and then start answering these questions and, kind of move forward, right? I mean, that's what we kind of talked about. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that what has happened with the COVID situation, Louis, that what I'm observing with many insurance carriers, they are taking building the capability from the data and analytics standpoint far more seriously than before. Because it used to be, I wouldn't call it luxury, but it used to be something that they would think that it is as an option to do as it permits during their business cycle and their budgeting process. Now what is happening is that it has become mandatory that they need to do something because the market space is so competitive and the pressures because of the COVID situation are changing and mounting for every carrier. So how do you get those data insights, right? And you want empower your underwriters, your business teams to come up with the strategies and different what if scenarios, right? So that capability is very, very important for them to be developed. Now, it is not as much to build like, fancy models, right? So those were the days that, a couple of years ago when you start thinking, oh, I need, you had a wish list of different models. Now, it's more of that. There is an urgent tactical need. In fact, Louis, I hate to call it tactical because you are getting immediate and questions answered itself is become a strategy and it's not tactical anymore. So you're
right.
in order to understand, face the market pressures, probably you need to get better and better in order to develop, some velocity in your insights,
Oh, there's no doubt. Oh, yeah.
So if you think in terms of a data supply chain, how the data comes in and how the velocity of the insights is formed, the third and most important part is dissemination, so the storytelling and your visual analytics and how that gets used. Because if we really want to truly empower the business folks with data and analytics, what's needed is truly the agility of the insights based on the data, good credible data, doesn't have to be perfect,
right.
but how quickly that comes to answer the questions, how to face market situation last quarter, this quarter, and that's where the whole industry is. And the carriers the carriers that understand that are going to stay ahead of the game. Absolutely. But again, I think, Louis, you have a business story or a case study to talk about, right? So why don't
Yeah, let's do that. But real quick, let's just jump back to that one thing that you were saying, because I think the slide depicts that, where, there's so much that goes on when you come to the realization that you have to have multiple data sources, and you have to put that together to be able to run analytics through it. And what I said earlier, and you were alluding to too, that's where the heavy lifting is. I just wanted to show this snapshot to our friends that, there's a whole engineering and science to this, and to me, it's part art, part engineering, part nuttiness, right? I call it data whispering. Understanding. When you see a database, what is it? Yeah, right. How does that database talk to you? I do that all the time. I'll open up a database, and I'll just kind of look at it and let it tell me something. What can I learn from it, right? And then you've got to apply the geniuses in the in the engineering world, where they're going to apply programs to it so that we can get a nice data set from 10, 12 different data bricks or scraping data. And today we don't get to buy a data brick. That maybe one source is a data brick, but another one is scraping from the internet. So it's very complicated. But when it comes together, it's like watching an orchestra, I think, right? I could just picture Upendra up there, in a tuxedo with long tails, just directing everybody, right? So it's awesome. It's an awesome thing. So, but to your point, let's go back to this before I digress too much. But so here's a case in point that we worked on, and you and I talked through this several times, where we were looking to figure out what kind of data, or how would data talk to us when we're looking at solving a problem like the COVID-19 issue, and what it did to small and middle-sized businesses, right? So we were able to look at so many data points to start saying, well, what did this crisis really do in an area? What did this crisis really do for a particular class of business? We showed you that spaghetti noodle thing where we had the classes up top, right? So if I'm a printer, a plumber, I'm a restaurant, I'm a doctor's office, what did this pandemic do for them? How did each one of those NAICS classes, get through this pandemic? What did it look like? What is the population counts in certain areas and density, and how did density play into this model, or age play into this model, and so on and so forth, so that we could take all those data sources. Think about it, from census data to U.S. business data to NEICS models to the COVID, John Hopkins data and so forth, and we start blending them together, and boom, we were able to paint an amazing picture that you could actually, one of the clients is putting factors to come up with, relativities and how much to charge based on a bunch of different criteria. I wish I could tell you the specifics, but I don't want to give it all away, on this call. But you can see how our discussion, it just leads to this point, just for this one thing on pandemic coverage and how would you price a pandemic coverage. So it's exciting, but it all brings it together. That we could do such great things in the industry. For risk analysis, of risk avoidance, fraudulent claim issues or rating. Underwriting. So it's even ease of use, or going out to find markets where we would want to market our insurance and so forth. So it's pretty exciting. So did I make that clear, or did I just babble through that? You got to keep me honest here, Dr. Bella.
No, I think you did, and I think what is interesting, as I said earlier, that the data analytics capability is stepping up for the insurance carriers to face the situation, and better prepared they are, better they would for their survival and their, basically
I agree.
competition in the marketplace. So that's where data and analytics
listen,
a long way.
We ran a little late, and I do apologize. And I hope everybody got to finish the video and that we didn't put you to sleep. I hope you guys are excited about this stuff as we are. So what I'd like to do is, just call us anytime, set up a meeting. We'd love to talk to you about what you're doing, see if we can help you, or maybe just give you some guidance or whatever it takes to get you through where you're going. Because we know many people in the industry, and look, I'm going to be honest with you, majority carriers that are doing, that are in this space, they're looking for analytics and how to grow and how to, where to even place this analytics and where does it make the most sense in your organization. There's been a lot of starts and stops, right? Let us help you with that, or talk you through that, or do as much or as little as you'd like, but we'd like to help you, or just talk to you. So reach out, and you've got our emails on here, our phone number, or through LinkedIn. Just go ahead and reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. Anything else you want to end on?
No, Luis, I think this was fantastic, and I hope people are interested in hearing more stories from us, and we have more stories to offer soon.
Definitely. All right. Well, you all have a great day, and thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate it.